patriarchy. Yeah, the patriarchy. The patriarchy.
Women don't really respect marriage.
Hello. Welcome back to our Isekai. I'm your overpowered MC Uchenna, and it's just me today. And today we're discussing Cardi B. So let's get to it. So Cardi B went on the Call Her Daddy podcast and said something that caught everyone's attention, right? Around the 52.
Men actually respect marriages. Women don't really respect marriages. When I used to meet guys, any type of famous guys and stuff like that, they were like, how you doing, Cardi B? Like this and that. My DMs were extremely dry. Nobody would approach me. But these women, they will throw themselves at a married man like it's nothing. It's like, oh, well, whatever.
Minute mark, she claimed that men actually respect marriages and women don't. Her evidence, while she was married, her DMs were dry. Meanwhile, women constantly threw themselves at her. I think they're separated, not fully divorced. So pending ex-husband, Offset. Now on the surface, that sounds like proof, right? It sounds like men have more principles. They're more principled than women. But when you slow that down, let it sink in, because that's just Cardi's experience. That's what she lived through. But the real conclusion that she obviously gets to is backwards, because it's a weird. Is it a dissonance? I don't know, because she was in a marriage herself, and the man she was married to didn't respect the sanctity of their own marriage. So her coming to that conclusion, to be honest, seems... I don't know what to think of that. But again, by the by, it's her lived experience. And this I don't think it's about respect. I don't think it's that the women didn't respect her marriage. Or really, I don't think it's that the women didn't respect her marriage. I think it's about risk and reward. It's about incentives. It's about the patriarchy. Yeah, the patriarchy. The patriarchy. The patriarchy. Nobody likes the word, but it's true. Okay, so Cardi's words were, when I announced that I was single, boy, my DMs flooded. But when I was married, nobody approached me. Offset, on the other hand, obviously had women lining up to get his attention even when he was married. So her takeaway was, you see, men respect marriage more, but that interpretation confuses incentives with people's morals. See where I'm going with this? Now, to be fair to Cardi, right, there's a reason why she feels the way that she does. Completely valid. While I personally don't think it's been really thought through properly, and it's likely she does need external help, professional external help, to deal with the emotions that she's feeling so she could put specific words to it. But her feelings in terms of feeling betrayed by women is valid, but when you let that sink in, who you should be mad at doesn't seem to be who you're blaming for this whole thing. But we'll get to that. Going to why Cardi feels the way that she feels about her relationship or what she said about marriage, it's a fair point, right? Because sliding into a woman who is physically, who is publicly married, and she's famous worldwide, social suicide for whichever man decides he wants to get in there. If the screenshots leaks, if there's photos, if there's anything, it's the blogs are going to run with it. The risk is too high. They're just not going to do that. Maybe these men, let's talk about the men that don't really care about these things. Men tend to preserve their reputation and I guess the type of clout that they want to chase. But there are some who, I guess, don't care. And when you say your DMs were empty, which side of your DMs? Maybe the ones that you want and the ones you don't want. So you don't care because they are not in your primary. They are in your requests, you know? So that's one. The second is Offset's environment. Offset's environment is clubs, it's after parties, it's the nightlife. It's literally an invitation to invite other people, right? To invite a specific type of culture, to invite a specific group of people. His environment calls for that. The music he makes calls for that. But Cardi's doesn't. Majority of her fans are women. And majority of what she sings is classed at women. It's pointed mainly towards women. I'm not saying she doesn't have male fans. She does. And 3, ambiguity, right? Because she even mentioned in long separations between her and Offset, they weren't living together. There were public spats. So who's to say when they were separated and when they weren't? And when these women were dealing with said man, or when they weren't dealing with said man. So yes, her DM stayed dry, but that doesn't mean that men respected marriage more. It means the cost of testing her boundaries were just too high. The men, I'm assuming, i.e. the basketballers, the men themselves who have social reputation to protect will not send her DMs, which are the men I'm assuming that she's talking about. They will not risk that. However, the women that Offset does not mind being exposed to are not the caliber. It doesn't match, right? They're not, this is the type of caliber. And again, patriarchy. Because if Cardi was going to lower the standard, and if it was men who didn't have such social reputation to protect, then she needs to look into her request and see what the DMs are saying over there, because I'm very sure there are men who don't mind doing it on the DL. Just looking there. Now, this is where I get into the whole incentives versus respect thing, right? So when you think about it, a married man with a married, high-profile woman is high risk, high exposure, high chance of embarrassment. That's not moral restraint. That's risk aversion. These men don't want to risk it. A married, high-profile man who publicly cheats, there's low penalties for it. Culturally, we've normalized it. Nobody cares. And that's why women don't feel fear. They feel freer to approach Offset because the culture that we live in normalizes it. It normalizes a man cheating. And these women think of it as a opportunity, because that man is weak, and that's the world we live in. This isn't about gender morality. It's about the patriarchy. It's about how patriarchy prices the behavior differently, right? The culture punishes people for approaching wives and excuses the people for approaching husbands, because you'll get people like, I don't know, people, oh, you don't do that to the wife, man, I mean, there's the whole conversation about Lauren London, I believe, and there's literally discourse on if she should move on from her partner who she wasn't married to, I believe. I'm sorry. There is discourse on this about and how no man wants to go there. And so Cardi thinks, what? Okay. There's also Kobe and his wife who are very high profile, very popular, very visible, very in the public eye. There's also discuss as well on whether she should even date, much less. So my point is, the culture deems women as a man's property. That is why they would not venture. It's not morals. It's the patriarchy. They think that you are owned by Offset. I'm sorry for the theatrics. Let me calm down. They think she is Offset's property and they do not want to overstep. It's not because they have morals. Okay, there's another factor as well. Intimidation. Men already feel threatened by successful, outspoken women, and the visibility that Cardi has, most men just wouldn't risk the rejection on such a global scale. That is fear. That's not morals. That's reverence. That is not morals. Moving on. Now let's say that maybe some men are just more principled. Maybe men really are just more principled. If that was true though, right? You'd see that. You see the restraint in every single context. It wouldn't just be when it comes to approaching a high-profile married woman, right? But you don't see that. Men pursue married women in offices. They pursue married women at the church, at the gym. I mean, they pursue married women anywhere. The difference is visibility and the consequences, or what they deem as enough consequence for them that they can handle. They weigh the risk and rewards, right? On the other hand, women DM married women, so clearly women are the problem. But not quite, right? Because that just shows the patriarchy rewards proximity to powerful men, and it ignores and they ignore the man's responsibilities to his own marriage, right? Because if Cardi were to be the one to cheat, they wouldn't just blame the man who Cardi cheats with. Cardi would get it too. But it doesn't seem that that's the case, because in this particular case, it seems like Offset's just getting off scot-free. Cardi is specifically targeting the women who he cheated with. Like, that doesn't make any sense. again, it's the system making you fight these women. It's not proof that women have a moral decay. I mean, maybe some do. I'm not going to say that they don't, but it's not the majority. Unfortunately, it's just in Cardi's experience that it's... So I guess what I'm trying to say, right, the bigger picture here is that Cardi is describing a system where approaching the woman, the wife, gets you shamed, and approaching a husband will get you admired, clout, and it seems to be normalized in the culture that we live in, because a lot of women are just known as the mistress. It's a hidden secret, you know? It's something that everybody knows about at church that nobody really quite talks about, and everyone stays quiet about it, even though everyone knows that the pastor's got a side chick, but you can't talk about it. The outcome isn't proof that men respect women more. It's proof that your proximity to a wealthy man has incentives. So my main takeaway from this whole thing is that just because Cardi had dry DMs doesn't prove a lack of integrity on women's part. I think it proves calculation. It proves that Offset's flooded inbox wasn't evidence that women disrespect in marriage. It's evidence that the patriarchy makes married men, fair game, while punishing men for shooting their shot at married women, because the culture celebrates a man cheating. And if you're going to celebrate someone who's cheating, the person who's cheating with, the celebration rubs off on them, and they get clout, they get something from it, right? Because we don't. So let me just throw something out there. Do you think Cardi's experience is proof that moral differences between men and women, or is it just proof of how the patriarchy sets the rules of the game? Like, it sets the standard for the world that they live in, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not about who respects marriage more, it's about who's punished for testing the boundaries. And married men aren't punished for testing the boundaries. Married men, clearly she didn't say, right, during that conversation, because she could have said that men don't respect marriage because her husband didn't respect their marriage and the sanctity of their marriage. But she blamed the women. And Offset gets off scot-free. It praises him for being high value enough to attract this amount of women, but he only attracts this amount of women because of the access they think that they can get from him. I think that's everything I have. If you guys have any questions, any thoughts, I would be happy to hear yours. And thank you for watching. If you found this breakdown useful, hit subscribe. And I think it's likely that I've got more social commentary essays coming through. Like, follow, subscribe. And if you don't like it, thumbs down it. I don't know. You do you.